All right, let's dive into something that's been making waves lately. And no, I'm not talking about the latest TikTok trend. I'm talking about the escalating tensions between the US and Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if you're like me, you might be thinking, why does this matter? Well, let me break it down for you. The Strait of Hormuz is this tiny but incredibly strategic waterway that connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. It's basically the highway for about a fifth of the world's oil supply. So, when there's a standoff here, the whole world feels it, especially the gas pump. Here's the deal. President Trump recently claimed that the U.S. has 100% control of the Strait of Hormuz after clearing it of Iranian mines. Personally, I think this is a bold statement, and it's not just about military might. What makes this really interesting is the psychological game being played here. Trump's framing this as a steel wall, a show of dominance. But here's the thing. Iran isn't backing down. They've made it clear they won't reopen the strait until the U.S. lifts its naval blockade, sanctions, and meets other demands. From my perspective, this is less about who controls the water and more about who controls the narrative. One thing that immediately stands out is Trump's demand for reparations from Iran. He's flipping the script, saying Iran should pay the U.S. for damages caused by Iranian-linked attacks and even for the deaths of Iranian protesters. In my opinion, this is a strategic move to shift the conversation. It's not just about the strait anymore. It's about who owes whom. But what many people don't realize is that this kind of rhetoric can escalate tensions faster than any military action. It's like pouring gasoline on a smoldering fire. If you take a step back and think about it, this standoff is part of a bigger trend in U.S.-Iran relations. It's not just about oil or control. It's about pride, power, and decades of mistrust. Iran's foreign ministry called U.S. sanctions a compulsive addiction, which, honestly, is a pretty sharp critique. What this really suggests is that both sides are digging in, and neither is willing to blink first. What's fascinating to me is how this affects the global economy. Oil prices are already spiking, and analysts are warning about energy supply disruptions. But here's the kicker. Despite all the tough talk, a full-blown regional war isn't the most likely outcome. Why? Because both sides know the cost would be catastrophic. So, we're left with this high-stakes game of chicken, where the real question is, who will make the first move to de-escalate? This raises a deeper question. Can diplomacy even work here? Personally, I think it's the only way out, but both sides seem more focused on saving face than finding a solution. A detail I find fascinating is how Oman is trying to mediate. It's like they're the only ones in the room with a fire extinguisher. But even that might not be enough if the U.S. and Iran keep throwing matches around. So where does this leave us? Well, it's a tense waiting game with global implications. If you're someone who cares about oil prices, international relations, or just the stability of the Middle East, this is a story you can't ignore. What this really suggests is that the Strait of Hormuz isn't just a waterway. It's a symbol of a much larger struggle for influence and control. Here's my closing thought. In a world where conflicts are increasingly economic and rhetorical, the Strait of Hormuz standoff is a perfect example of how small actions can have massive consequences. It's not just about who controls the water. It's about who controls the future. So, the next time you hear about this on the news, remember, it's not just a standoff. It's a battle for the narrative, and the whole world is watching.